Good morning, everybody. My name is Jillian Berry. I am a client success manager here at Tracker, and today I'm going to walk you through some of our great back office tools around invoicing and getting your payments in. So we have strived really hard to make our invoicing and back office tools as user-friendly and easy to use as possible. I'm going to go ahead and apologize if you can hear my dog barking. To start off, we have given you the ability to raise an invoice from multiple different places in the system. So you're able to raise that invoice from the company, from the job, from the project, and from the contacts record, as well as the actual timesheet page here. Now, everywhere except for the timesheet page, you're going to find that new invoice button in the action menu on the right-hand side. And you'll open that up if you can't see it through this little gray button that says show action menu. So when you are creating that invoice, you're going to have that first option is going to be to choose the invoicing contact. Once you do that, you'll be able to open up that invoice. I'm going to go ahead and do it from the project though, so you can see a little bit more of what it's going to look like with those temp candidates and all that good stuff. So we'll open up new invoice. It's going to be for this project. And just a little lay of the land here. We've got our invoicing contact, so that's who we're going to be sending this invoice to. We have the owner, that's going to be you. It could be any other user in your system. You can pull it from right here in the dropdown. You can add this invoice or create a purchase order from right here to attribute it to if you need to. That's the kind of thing you collect. We have our invoice templates here. So you'll create those just like your email templates and everything else under standard templates in tools and settings. Under the systems field, you're going to just choose invoice. So that shows that we need to show this template on the invoices specifically, and that's what it's going to be for. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I'll get to them. I also have someone else on my client success team here helping me with the questions too. So feel free to drop them in there as they come up. We have our invoicing address. This will be drop downs from any of the addresses you have added into that company record that we're invoicing. The invoice status, default to raised. You can change this in the invoice screen in bulk, and I'll show you that soon, as well as changing it right here manually if you wanted to change the status. Invoice date, that's going to be defaulted to the date that this invoice goes out. We have the due date and then the payment date, and that is going to fill in once this invoice gets paid or marked as paid in your system. We also have a little calculator here. If you wanted to calculate any sort of discount that would go on to this invoice, you can also add discounts or take away money and stuff like that through line items, which I'll show you in a second. So here's our info up here, and now we will add on those invoice items. So in the green plus button over here, we can add on an item manually. You can grab job products and services, which are added in under tools and settings under the financials tab. You'll have all perm candidates. If this is a job that's permanent, you want to add that perm fee onto here. We have temp timesheets and temp expenses. For this example, I'm going to use these temp timesheets you see down here. So once we say add in timesheets, we'll get this pop up. We'll be choosing the date range for the timesheets that we want to pull into this invoice. We're going to choose, do we want this to be all candidates or just a specific candidate on this project? Do we want it just approved time or just submitted time or all? You have non-billable and billable items only. You have invoiced and only uninvoiced time here. Rates to use, do you want to use those timesheet task rates or do you want to use the rates off of the candidate? I'm sorry, off of the placement. And then we have the itemized. So do you want to itemize this invoice by the candidate, by the task, so by regular hours in this example, or by the candidate and the task, or candidate and the purchase order? So you get a couple of different options here. So I'm going to make sure I get these example candidates on here. So I'm going to do all just to make sure. And now you see both of my candidates down here. We have the status unpaid. We have the units of time, so how many hours they had logged into this timesheet. The unit value, your subtotal, any tax percentage, and we could have put that on when we added in those line items, and then the total value. We have our subtotal, our unpaid subtotal, and our unpaid total over here. See down here, we can add in any custom fields you guys need as well to go onto that invoice. You also have the freedom to do, like I said earlier, any invoice templates. Now, once we've got this all set up and everything is on here, we're going to move to our action menu and start doing stuff with this actual invoice. So from here, I can go ahead and print this out. I can email this invoice out. It will attach as a PDF to your email, or you can have it in the actual body of the email. That's up to you. We have the option to PDF this invoice and then to split this invoice. And that's something we'll look at in just a second. You can put splits into your invoice, so split it over time. And this is set up under invoice settings. You would set up an invoice profile. So you see my two candidates right here. I would find my profile, we'll do 4 stages, and then it shows you the breakdown of these invoices between the 4 different invoices that you're breaking them into. So you see the subtotals here, and then the total of all, the money we need to collect here at the bottom. So that is how we're going to do splits. Send to account system. So we are integrated with Xero as well as QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Office. So if you do want to sync with that, you can have your invoice sync the paid status, the unpaid status, all of that kind of good stuff over to your QuickBooks account and vice versa in the invoices page. So if you want to do that manually, individually in this invoice, you can just say send to account system and it's going to do that. We also have the audit history, so you can see any changes that have gone on in this invoice, in this record, all that kind of good stuff with a date and timestamp and who did it. We've got mark paid, you can delete, you can save and close, all of that good stuff over here. So let's say we wanted to, send this invoice out via email, print it out, convert it to a PDF. We have all those options to get it there. Now, as far as getting paid, we also have an option now so that you can hook up with Stacks or Pay Now, whatever you want to call it, and they can actually pay you on the invoice with their credit card through a button. And I'll give you a little preview. This is what that would look like. Review and Pay Now, that's that button. It gets added onto your template, just like those template tags that pull in the text for you. So if you want to get that added, definitely reach out to me, reach out to the support team, and we will get you through that setup process so you can have your clients then pay right on that invoice and not have to use any other software. So I'm going to go into our actual timesheets tab, show you how to raise these from here. Do you see our timesheets? I'm going to group select them. I can also do this individually. I'll go into that action menu and just select generate invoices right here. Now I get a couple more options here as far as consolidation goes. So when I'm invoicing from the screen in bulk, I can also choose for it to be 1 invoice per assignment, 1 invoice per placement, 1 invoice per company, or 1 per company and per candidate. So you would get an individual one for each person and each company. So something to think about when you are pulling it from the timesheets page. I think this is the easiest place to do it since you can bulk grab these and send. So we've got 4 questions coming in. Let's take a look. If I set up my invoicing details within the profile tab of the company record, do I need to click in the drop downs when creating an invoice, or will they automatically be populated based on what I select for invoicing details? It should populate for invoicing details for you, but just to go back into that one. As far as these items, they will need to manually go in, but your rates and all that kind of stuff should carry over. The contact should carry over. The owner should be the person doing it. So other than that, you'd have to give me a little bit more detail, but it is going to pull everything over from the placement and all that kind of good stuff. How do you raise a temp invoice with 30 people in 3 different departments? Departments aren't going to affect this invoice. You would just select them all from that timesheets page and then select to invoice them from there. If we have any other questions, we'll get to those ASAP. All right, so go back into this timesheet page. So we can go ahead and say generate invoices here. And once we do generate those invoices, they do come in now to our invoices tab. So you can do that broken down and actually have it pulled up right here too. So you can see under the tab, you can break that down by raised, overdue, new, and pending invoices. You don't have to go into the screen with all of them right here. You'll see at the top, we have our widgets. So we have invoices raised this month and the total money there, invoices paid, invoices overdue, and then invoices that have moved over into bad debt. Sorry, just reading through some of these questions. Are you able to change the invoice date? Yes, you are able to. Put that in. When generating the invoice, you can change that right there in the field. Okay, so when we're in this invoicing page, you can single select or you can bulk select here, and there you can email those invoices to the actual invoicing contact. You can send these to your account system, like I was saying. So send these off with their invoicing status to sync to your QuickBooks, or vice versa with sync from account system. So if you did set it to paid in QuickBooks, it will then send to Tracker and mark it as paid. Another question, are you able to use custom invoice numbers? No, you are not, but if you do need to change your invoice number, we can put in a ticket to the support team to start your invoice numbers over at a certain place, like 2020 or something like that. So that is an option. So if the invoice is supposed to go to an AP inbox, do you need to update the client profile to have that information instead of their personal email? You would just need to add that email in as a contact to the company, and you can just grab that in the generate invoices, right where it asks what contact you want to send it to. There you would choose that AP inbox. And that can be done in the project as that commercial contact too. If you wanted to just go ahead and set it there, that's a good place for it to come up automatically in the invoices. All right. So when we're in here, like I said, you can email these out, print the invoices, send them off to QuickBooks or Xero, and then sync back from. You can also do this in bulk, or we can bulk update those custom fields, or perhaps mark these all as paid, unpaid, whatever, and change that status from here in bulk. So when you're in here as well, you might have different templates that you need to send out to different people. You will set that up under tools and settings, like I said. That is going to be in a couple of different places to affect what goes on to this invoice. So when you're in back office settings, you'll get your time and expense for the timesheet. This invoicing stuff is going to actually live under financial instead of back office. So invoice settings is going to give you the ability to show what exactly comes over in that block in the middle there. Pull that example back up. In this block. So what do we want to display and what don't we want to display? So again, invoice settings, that's under the invoice and quote item settings. You'll get to change show or not show, hide to any of these to kind of determine what information you want to keep to yourself on those invoices. This is how you're going to have to set that up if you did QuickBooks. So that is when you would have to see this. And then these are those invoice profiles that we talked about earlier, where you can then split those up into different stages. So this 4 stages that we looked at, it's every 10 or 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, and 60 days, you'd have another 25% invoice to them. So you can set up different ones here. You saw where I selected that when I generated the invoice, but we can go back to that if needed. All right, looking at some of these questions. So are you able to change the company that's being invoiced? For example, company is ABC Construction and they want to invoice the attention to ABC Payroll Management. I would just add that ABC Payroll Management as an extra contact onto that invoice. Onto that company. So then you can grab that contact and email it to the right person while you're still, invoicing to the correct company, per se in Tracker. So if we wanted to send it to ABC Construction, I would add ABC Payroll Management as a contact to ABC Construction and then send the invoice to that person, if that makes sense. Let's see. Can you explain in detail how the QuickBooks connection works with Tracker? Oh, it disappeared. So I guess that got answered by my associate, which is awesome. What does it look like to send the invoice to QuickBooks? So you have the option to do it right here. So send to account system, or when I'm in that invoicing page in the bulk action menu or the single action menu, it's going to be send to account system or send from account system. Right. So back in our tools and settings, this is where you would add in those invoice profiles for the splits. This is where you would add in those products and services to pull in. So maybe if you have a $200 consulting fee, maybe you do resume rewriting, all that kind of stuff, something you would frequently pull in that you don't manually want to add to each invoice, this is where you could do so. I did also want to show you guys how to do a discount. So you can do a discount percentage right here. That could calculate it off from the regular items down here, or we can just add in a line item on its own. So let's say that I want to take off $200 because they had a retainer fee or something like that. I would just put in my item code if I wanted to, the descriptions, we'd say retainer fee. And from here, I would just manually write in that amount. So I put negative $200. I'll press OK, and it's now going to take that money off of my invoice for me. Looking at the questions again. Are you able to have an attachment to the invoice? Yes. So when you go ahead and email out that invoice, here's where you can go ahead and throw on any attachments. So you'll have it automatically here as a PDF. They throw in the timesheet approvals here for them to see too. And then I could add on, whatever else you wanted, maybe throw in a template here too that you send every time you send out invoices. Is there a plan to group projects together on a single invoice? So let me go into here and see what our options are for the consolidation. I admittedly don't have them memorized. So one invoice per company is what you would want to do here. So if you have multiple different projects with that same company, you would just say, you would grab them all in bulk here, generate the invoice, and then select one invoice per company. So go ahead and mark that one as done. Where do you add your company logo header to your invoice settings? Great question. So that is going to be in the template. So we'll go into tools and settings. And I didn't show this, so I'll go ahead and show you guys. Under standard templates, like I was saying, where you set up those email and text message templates, you can also set up your invoice templates. So I'll show you an example. You would just put that together here, and then where it says system template here, you would choose invoice. Looks like that other one might be already hooked up. Yeah. So you would add in your image. There's one here at the top, just right here through that insert edit image. You can easily pull up any of the images from your media library right here, or go ahead and upload one. Can payments be entered into QuickBooks Online and synced with Tracker? Yes, you would do your work in QuickBooks Online if the setup is already done, making that connection with Tracker. And then, like I showed in the invoice itself, you can say send to account system, or in the actual invoices screen, send from account system, or sync to or sync from. So both ways, yes, it can be in QuickBooks, and that will be synced from a system to Tracker. Show you that right here, sync from account system. So that was how you would enter into QuickBooks and then sync it with Tracker. And that's going to be those statuses though of just paid, completed, invoiced, all that kind of stuff. Last thing I do want to mention too is that in the future, soon, we're going to be having a new data management consulting service available. So if you have a ton of candidates in your system, a ton of duplicates, that kind of thing, we can do cleanup on aged records. So that's companies, contacts, candidates, what have you. Cleaning up duplicates, location enrichment. So pulling in the missing cities, missing zip codes, all that kind of good stuff. Repopulating in those quick skills for you. So filling in the ones that maybe didn't get caught. Maybe you did a data migration and those skills didn't come in with it. We can do field normalization. So if you want to make everything streamlined. So if maybe there's some misspellings and stuff like that, they're throwing off your reporting, we can do a cleanup in those fields as well. Invalid phone numbers, invalid emails, invalid contact info, all that kind of good stuff. We can identify it and clean that up for you in your system. Compliance cleanup, so anything data sensitive, stuff like that can come out, social security numbers, ethnicities, all that kind of stuff. And then just any sort of cleanup as far as post-servicing reports, deletion of data, candidate resume reparsing, all that kind of good stuff is going to be an option very, very soon. So stay tuned. They can do that on the consistency of daily. You could have it just run once to do a one-time cleanup, weekly, monthly, annually. It's going to be super helpful. I know a lot of clients have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of candidates. This can definitely help the integrity of your data and save you some time from reaching out to people who maybe don't have valid contact information in your system. Another question, in consolidation, what's the difference of one invoice per placement versus one invoice for company and candidate? So this candidate might be on more than one placement. They could be working more than one job for that company. I would say that would be the difference, is if there's more than one. One invoice per company will only pull all of the selected projects in. We need the projects to be displayed and grouped on the invoice. Is this possible? Yes, if you're consolidating that way, yes. And that would also come in with the grouping. So let me just pull up one of those. So when you're adding them in, you would want to add them in by their timesheet. So it's going to show you that. And then you would also want to do the consolidation. Let's see. Oh, wrong page. Like, why isn't this working? Here we go. Oh, looks like that's already been answered, but you're going to do that right here. Does the system sync with Sage intact? I will have to double check on that. I know it definitely does with Xero and with QuickBooks. I will double check on Sage. And we've got your name so we can reach back out. All right, so if there is any other questions or anything else needed, please definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me, Jillian Berry, or reach out to client support. Definitely want to help you out with any of these questions, or if you want to get stacks set up or try and use these invoicing options. Hope you have a great Wednesday, and let us know if you're interested as well in those data management consulting services in the future. Thank you.